What's up, Gear Mortals? Trey Xavier here. Today, I'm gonna show you how I use MIDI drum grooves for rock songwriting. When I write songs, I need to have really good drums pretty much at my fingertips all the time. And to do that, I just have tons and tons of these MIDI drum grooves, which is basically real drummers playing real parts on an electronic kit captured as MIDI, and then through the power of MIDI, you're able to drop those performances into your song and have them trigger sounds off of your drum sample library, like the amazing Superior Drummer 3 from Toontrack that we're using today, just like this. How cool is that these little dots make this little drummer guy go, and it just sounds awesome. Sounds like drums. Today, all the drum sounds you're gonna be hearing are from the brand new Fields of Rock SDX that was just released as part of Toontrack's Rocktober. Before I dive in, I just wanna let you guys know real quick that I'm releasing a complete rock and metal songwriting course very soon. Sign up at the link in the description to get notified when it goes live. First of all, let's real quick talk about why you would use MIDI drum grooves when you're writing your songs. Isn't it better to just use a real drummer? Isn't it better to play the drums yourself? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not really much of a drummer, and I don't have one just at my beck and call all the time that I can be jamming with on a regular basis, especially right at the moment when inspiration strikes. But Superior Drummer 3 is always right here in my DAW, ready to go, and having these MIDI drum grooves is like having a drummer that never sleeps. But more than anything else, I don't want my songs to be limited by my very mediocre drum skills and understanding of drums and imagination when it comes to drums, because once again, these parts are played by real drummers who have things that I don't have, like groove and really good imagination on in coming up with drum parts, and just all the little nuances and subtleties of somebody who's a really, really great drummer versus me who's drums can, in a lot of ways, really define the style of music that you're playing and influence the direction of the song in a huge way. So it's very important to get it right out the gate. So with that in mind, I'm gonna show you how I really quickly find suitable drum grooves for my songs. To demonstrate this for you today, I've come up with a really straightforward, basic rock guitar and bass thing. Kind of sounds like the Foo Fighters or something. It's around 145 BPM. I'm working in Pro Tools today, which is sort of my go-to. So here's what that sounds like. As you can tell, it does not sound very exciting or good without any drums in there. The bass that you're hearing is coming from Easy Bass, just the core library, and all the guitar sounds are from Easy Mix. In order to find the perfect drum groove for this part, the very first thing that we have to do is decide where the backbeat is going to go. The backbeat is pretty much the placement of the snare within the measure. Typically, you'll find it on what's called 2 and 4, the second and fourth beats of the measure. So, for example, like this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or like a halftime feel might be on just 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are just the two most common ones for rock. There's a lot of other ones, and you're probably gonna vary it up quite a bit throughout your song if you don't want it to get really boring. For this part, I think having a 2 and 4 backbeat makes the most sense, so I'm going to navigate over to the Grooves tab of Superior Drummer 3, and I'm going to show you how to use a tool that is gonna save you so much time, the Tap to Find feature. Look at that. I know that happened pretty quickly. I'm gonna show you it again real quick, but pretty much what just happened was I tapped in a 2 and 4 groove against the metronome, and it just spit out all of these 2 and 4 type of grooves, ones that match really closely. And you can do this a couple of different ways. You can use your mouse, or if you have like a MIDI keyboard or something, you can use that too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then you just click Show Results, and boom. Then we're gonna narrow our search even further using all of these filter options. Start with a genre filter. We know it's a rock song, so pop, rock, country will narrow it down even more. We've got all these different options for styles. We're just gonna call it standard. Type, straight, swing, beat, fill, ending, percussion, halftime, normal time, double time. We don't have to worry about halftime, normal time, double time because we've already got the backbeat dialed in. I'm gonna click straight so that keeps it from having like a shuffle or a swing feel because this song is straight eighths. Up next, we're given the option to choose the power hand. Now, I consider this to be the second most important part of a drum groove because it's the thing that's sort of keeping time consistently throughout the groove. Most commonly, it's on the hi-hat or the ride, but it can be on anything, toms, crashes, chinas. I'm pretty sure I want an open hi-hat for this part, so I'm gonna click on that. And then I want a pretty specific groove for this. Because this was sort of Foo Fighters inspired, I wanna try out like a 16th note hi-hat thing, so I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna tap that in the tap to find using just the mouse. All right, first quarters. 1, 2, then eighths. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 16ths. The third most important part of a drum groove is the kick drum and where it goes within the measure. But I'm actually not gonna specify that within the filters at all or using the tap to find because that's something that I usually change almost all of the time to match the part better. So we're just gonna find the groove that fits the part the best, and then I'm gonna modify the kick drum to make it fit better. I have basically every MIDI drum pack that TuneTrack makes. It's probably likely that you do not. You probably are only gonna get ones that make sense for the style of music that you play, so your results will not be this dense. But no matter how many you have, if you organize it by matching, the thing that you're looking for is probably gonna be in the first couple results anyways. I'm actually gonna go in and narrow it even a little bit further by also selecting beat. If I hold down Command and click beat within type, then you can select more than one type of filter. That way we're not getting things like fills or endings or things that we don't really need. Then I just go through real quick and I preview each of the beats using this little play button. That sounds pretty close. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the star button on that to favorite it so that I save it for later. Okay, there's a good one too. That one's a bit more straightforward. I really like the sound of this one. So now I've picked out 3 that could potentially work. And then I just kind of decide which one I think is the grooviest that's gonna fit the best. See, this is where it being played by a real drummer makes a big difference. Listen to the hi-hat accents and the different ways that the different drummers played them. This one's playing like with the accent on the first one. So is that one. This one's going. I like that. This one feels the grooviest to me. And then all I do is just grab it straight out of Superior Drummer and drag it onto the instrument track. And there it is. And then it's in my song. Now, if I drop it in there and it doesn't work, I can just undo and try a different one. So like, let's try this first one. That one's a little more straightforward. It doesn't have any of the fills or anything that the other one did. Let's try out this one. Of those 3, I'm actually not gonna use the one that I thought I liked the most because when I dropped it into the track, it didn't really fit as well as this other one. So I actually think that this second one is gonna be the jam. When I'm doing this within my sort of basic songwriting workflow and not explaining every step to the camera, it usually takes me between like 15 and 30 seconds to find the groove that I'm starting with, and then a little bit of time doing the next part that I'm gonna show you, which is modifying it to fit the part better. We're gonna start with what I consider to be the third most important part of the groove, which is the kick drum. So I don't wanna change it up too much because that's part of what makes it groovy, is these little syncopations and stuff in what this drummer played, but I also want it to fit the guitar and bass parts a bit better. A really easy way to make it seem like your drum part is a lot more intentional and not just kind of slapped on there is to have the kick drum catch a lot of the rhythms that the guitar and bass are playing. So for example, like there's this these 2 eighth notes right at the beginning here, so I'm gonna have the kick drum hit both of those. Ba-na, ba-na-na. You can have the kick drum follow a lot more closely than that. Sometimes that bogs the drum part down, like if I do it just now. That feels worse rather than better. Takes a lot of the bounce out of the original groove, but then I do actually want it to go here again to really cement in that da-da. Also, this part does not start with a crash, I just realized. 99% of the time, a real drummer is going to hit a crash at the beginning of a new part, and this groove does not have that built in. So I'm gonna make that happen real quick just by grabbing this hi-hat hit and dragging it to where the crash that I want is, which is a very noisy process. I'm gonna do this double kick drum move pretty much throughout. Just everywhere it makes sense and doesn't take away from the feel of the part. So that leaves us with this. So that sounds pretty good to me, but not a very satisfying ending to the part. So there's a couple different ways that you can make that feel a little bit more complete. The first and easiest way to do this is just to add a fill. Drum fills can get real annoying real fast if you have them happen too often. Now, really repetitive or boring, lame, stiff-sounding drum fills are a dead giveaway of really amateurish drum programming. So, number one, really limit your drum fills to like every 4 or 8 bars. If you start hearing them every 2 bars or every bar, it gets just really annoying to hear after a while, and so you want to avoid that. So with that in mind, we're gonna go back to our filters, and I'm gonna unclick the beat, and we're gonna go and we're gonna click fill, and that gives us a bunch of fills. And then same process as before, I just sort of preview them until I find one that I like. Sometimes they include a bit of beat beforehand, so I actually like to drag them onto a separate MIDI track, and that way I can just grab the part that I want. So now we hear what that sounds like. Yeah, that's a good fill. So that fill works just fine for me. I think it sounds great in the context. Another thing that I like to do that's a little bit more labor intensive, and I might not do this when I'm just sort of going, like when I'm writing really quick and I don't want to lose my flow state, I might just leave it alone actually. But if it feels like it really needs it, I might stop and do this in the moment where I have the drums really follow what the guitar and bass are doing very closely with like crashes and kicks. So here's what the drum and bass part sounds like right there. It's the first time they're playing a different rhythm from what we've been hearing throughout. Da 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 da. I want it to go ch ch ka ch ch. So all I'm gonna do is move the notes that are already here to different instruments. Cool. This is also something you don't want to do too often because it really interrupts the flow of the song, but it does make the drums sound really intentional. So that leaves us with this. So that to me sounds great. It sounds like a real drummer played it, it sounds groovy, and it fits the part very closely. And then you basically just repeat this whole process for each part of your song until you have a complete song arrangement. I usually try to keep it really, really simple as I go and do as little tweaking as possible in sort of the first pass of writing as I'm just riding that first wave of inspiration, you know, really getting the parts down for the whole song structure. And then I'll go back in and get a little bit more specific and detailed and tweak little things here and there. For me, songwriting is equal parts inspiration, like the inception of the original idea that you're working off of, proof of concept, which is sort of the demo process so that you can hear it as you go, and then the work of developing the idea, the song structure, and the arrangement all together to get a finished product. And this is why having a well-stocked library of MIDI drum grooves is so crucial to my songwriting process, because if I had to stop and program by hand all of these drum grooves as I go, I'd lose the spark of inspiration because it would take so long, and they wouldn't feel as groovy as using something that was played by a real drummer. Using this kind of a workflow, on the other hand, allows me to maintain my inspiration and flow state throughout the songwriting process and yields way better results. And these days, with such an incredible variety of really great MIDI drum grooves and amazing sounding drum software like Superior Drummer 3, there is just no excuse for having weak sounding drums in your songwriting process. I'm really curious to know how it is that you guys get drum sounds into your songs as you're writing. Do you do it like this, or are you sort of programming them more by hand? Do you have a certain workflow that you like better? I really want to know, so please leave a comment in the comments section letting me know a little bit about your process, and don't forget to sign up for my songwriting course because it's coming very soon. The link is in the description where you can sign up to get notified once again. Huge thanks to TuneTrack for sponsoring this video as part of Rocktober and for making the most amazing songwriting tools that I use all the time. You can find all the ones that I used in this video at the links in the description below, and be sure to stick around for more songwriting videos right here on Gear Gods throughout Rocktober and Metal Month, and I'll see you real soon.